I think in kind of like true Nothing But Thieves fashions, we don't really ever overly think about what we're creating. We are very kind of like present when we create, and it's just in the moment for the song, and it's just a kind of a sum of what you're into at the time, where you're leaning into, and it could be for a number of reasons. It could be as simple as like being sick of belting out songs every single song we ever do, and when you're writing a set list and like Joe's writing a set list and it's an hour and a half long, and we're doing these songs that are just like the whole time. It's subconscious to be like, let's kind of chill this out a little bit. And yeah, like I said, whatever we're listening to at the time, and that on this record is wildly different to what we were listening to before. But without really going, we're going to make this sort of record. We just do it on the day when we're writing a song, and it comes out naturally.
Did it feel pressurized at all? Because I mean, I feel like the answer is going to be kind of no with you guys, because I feel like you do just settle in there, do what you want to do. As you've just said, there's kind of no agenda in a way. It's just kind of what feels right. But it's fair to say that I mean, you went bigger than ever before, guys, on that last record. I mean, some of the biggest shows you ever played, and festival headline slots, and obviously such an amazing reception to not just the record, but also the EP that followed it too. Does that weigh on your mind at all? Like, how do you follow something that big, or are you able to just kind of put that to one side?
I think we probably had that with Moral Panic. We probably had that slight thing of like, okay, we've become an established band. How do we get to that next level? And that kind of pressure probably made us try and expand a room and push the walls as far as we could. And I don't know why we didn't do that this time. It's like we just stopped caring and we just wrote what we wanted to write. It felt quite like we were starting again, like first record, the first EPs, where we were just not putting pressure on ourselves and just trying to write the best songs and be creative and not really care about the bigger we get, the bigger the sound gets, anything like that at all.
The diversity across the album, it's already visible from those singles, right? I mean, you put out that the kind of title track, Welcome to the DCC, and that's got big 80s synth pop vibes and a little touch of the Weekends about it. It's very, very good. It's a good kind of opening bashing statement there. But then Overcome, I almost want to say, and I don't mean this derogatory at all, almost soft rock in there. There's a little yacht rock kind of playing in the background of that, at least in the intro. Do you know what I mean? And like, I feel like that sums up you guys all over in the best positive way. It's like, there are no rules here. And you set out your stall very, very early. Tell me, I guess, a little bit about picking singles would be something I'd ask you about, because it is interesting to see what tracks you have picked to put out there ahead of the record and give people a taste, because they are all so wildly different from each other too.
Yeah, I think we had a bit of a fortunate accident with Welcome to the DCC, because when we were writing it, and because obviously Dom produces the record, we are doing a lot of the production before we even get into the studio to like properly record. Because like Joe said, we didn't think that was going to be a single. We were just going to do like this little clip of it. We just had a lot of fun, and we kind of almost took the mick in a sense and like made it pastiche and very over the top and very 80s and an invitation to this concept, to this world. So we had no restrictions on it. So the fortunate accident in that is the fact that we didn't have a single mindset on it, as in like this is going to be a single, we need to keep it in that frame. And then it turned out to be a single, and we were like kind of bold enough, well, I think, to release that, which it was a conversation we needed to have. We were all like, is this a bit much for a first single? Are people going to freak out? Is this a bit weird? But I'm glad we did that, and I think I'm glad it was written that way around, where we didn't think it was going to be a release. I think we kind of fell onto Nothing But Thieves quite luckily when we did the first record, where we just didn't know what we were doing. And I think the kind of mantra at the time was, let's just try and fit this band, this all rock band, around Conor's, like, my voice, and just see what that means, and see like how can you do that? Because I've got quite like a poppy R&B voice naturally, or like kind of classical voice, and it was a real challenge for us to just figure out what that meant for a rock band. And I think because that first record and the first EPs and stuff were all over the place, and people seemed to like that. That was the best thing we could possibly do, and it gave us freedom forever. Basically, it means that we never really had a fully fledged sound. It just gave us the freedom to just do what we want for the next, 3 records. And I think that's the best thing that could have happened to us. And it means the next record, you never know what's going to happen again. And neither do we, which I absolutely love. And I think as well, like we, because like the boys were saying, it's such a long time we've been writing this record. Some of the starting points were during the pandemic. And during the pandemic, it gave you that time to spend time listening to music again and falling back in love with music. And I think we were all going back to our roots of what we listened to growing up. And I definitely think, personally for me, I was just back listening to R&B and pop and soul, and then it just naturally comes out with what you want to write and what you want to create, because you've just been absorbing it for like a year and a half during the pandemic. I feel like everything that I was adding to the table was just pop and R&B, and I couldn't really help that because it was just what you're listening to. And I think that, that's just like one other thing that made this record different. Like we had the time to kind of just fall back in love with music again, really.
Then when it comes time to actually adding vocals, Conor, tell me a little bit about playing characters, because that's got to be an interesting thing. It's a whole different approach for you in terms of vocal performance. Tell me a bit about figuring that out.
It isn't. It's like, I mean, I've had this conversation with Dom and Joe millions of times, but I have to feel emotionally connected to whatever we're writing. So like, even within the concept, everyone has to be emotionally connected to the album. When we're producing, when we're making the music to fit around what we're trying to say. So for me, it's so important to get my head into what we're saying, what we're outputting. And like, I'm a very emotional person anyway. So it's like when I sing, it's a really like important thing for me to do, to release what I'm feeling. So whenever I'm in the studio and whatever song we're doing, I'll be studying what I'm thinking and studying the song and connecting and putting out what I feel about it when I'm recording and connecting as heavily as I can to it. But I would do that on every single song we do, regardless of the concept. Because like Joe said, I mean, like, the people don't know it yet, but there is some real, heightened emotions within this record. It's just layered in a clever metaphor, which is great and really interesting for us to do. But there's still, every single song we write, there's a soul within the song. That's a real key thing for us since the start. It doesn't matter the way we dress it up. It's like the song has to have soul and substance and emotion. Otherwise, it's just pointless, It was really important for us we'd seen some concept albums and the artwork for concept where you just know they're trying to be so futuristic and glitzy and glamorous, and it just falls on its feet as soon as you release it. You're trying to timestamp it, and it was really important for us to not have a single timestamp or a location stamp as to any of this, not just the art, but like all the video, all of like the tangible stuff we've made, the merch, even like the way we like the styling, what we've been doing, because like I said, you didn't want people to be like, okay, it's an 80s record, they're in the 80s, and because it's not like that at all. It's a mixed bag of sounds and genres within the record. So for us, having the art say that too was really important. And I think when Luke first understood that and was messing around with like the old Epcot retro futuristic thing, where you just have no idea if that's in the 50s or in 2050, when they were originally designing that sort of stuff, that was a real godsend for us. It was like, yeah, you've nailed that. That's exactly where we want to head. And we worked really hard on like carrying that feeling through all of the videos and stuff like that as well. And like I said, like even our own styling, you don't know whether that's old school or if it's something super futuristic. And so there was a lot of meticulous work from the get-go about all of that.